just setting things up. Just hang in with me for a second. I gotta get this astrodoodle underway here. And everything's jamming up, and I don't know why. I'm trying to imagine, think my way through this. Here we go. Alright, bear with me. Can't find the song that I wanted to play. Damn it. Dear oh dear. Let me try. Alright, here we go. me a moment. Alrighty. Welcome and good evening. Over here it is 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We just started. It's a Sunday evening, of course, over in the Southern Hemisphere. South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Argentina, Chile. It is already Monday. Alright, so I've just brought up an astrodoodle here for today. And I'm going to go through a few things in a moment. But then before I kind of go to do that, I'm going to try and do this in a way where you can see how I blame it on the planets. So I am feeling this very strongly. If I'm feeling it, I guarantee other people are feeling it. I already had Love Triber affirm offline that she has been struggling with this Well, it's not a surprise. Okay, here's good old planet Earth. We've been doing these astrodoodles for a long time now. And the big, big monster, of course, is Pluto in Capricorn here, retrograde around the 25-degree mark. And it is in direct opposition to all the Cancerian energy of the United States, and it is in direct conjunction with the Pluto birth aspect of the United States. So this is a very, very, very high pressure situation. Saturn is in Aquarius retrograde. Jupiter is in Aquarius retrograde. Neptune is in Pisces retrograde. Uranus just turned retrograde in Taurus. So that's a huge wall of massive retrograde energy. So if you feel as though your life is perhaps slowed down in some way, or where you feel as though there's some kind of invisible force that is impeding your ability to move forward in life with your own ambitions, your dreams, your economics, your health, your life and world and community, your status and career in the world, that would be normal. Because this is happening on a very massive scale. Because these retrogrades here, okay, I'll do it from the outside in. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they all represent what looks like this. I'll just do a little quick, extremely primitive and oversimplified view of our solar system. Hello, Robin, I see you. Thank you so much, folks, for showing up. Okay, I'll do it from the center where the sun is so that you can see it normally. So this would be the sun, and then this would be Mercury. This would be Venus. This would be Earth. This would be well, I have to put the moon in here, so the moon is actually like this. I'll just put it around there. The way we look at the astrology, we do it, of course, as if we are at the center, where the Earth is at the center. That's why we get the retrogrades. At the sun, of course, there are no retrogrades, because everything is moving in perfect motion. Mars is over here. Jupiter, of course, is over here. Saturn is here. Uranus is like this. Neptune is like this. And for the sake of space and argument, I'm just going to do Pluto out here. Okay? Now, as some of you know, this ring here represents the orbit of Pluto. But in reality, with our solar system, everything in our solar system moves along a plane like this. They all orbit. Again, there's the sun, but all the planets orbit in a plane, okay? Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, but Pluto is out of sync, okay? So if you can imagine the concentric rings like Saturn, the plane of orbit is here, all right? But with Pluto, the plane of orbit is off to the side like this, okay? So it has a very, let's say, disproportionate impact on how we experience things from the Pluto aspect of our life, which is the hardest to understand, the hardest to integrate at the depths of our soul. Most of us struggle with Sun, moon. See, the moon rotates around us here. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. In basic Western astrology, the personal planets go all the way up to Venus and Mars. Okay, up to here. So, like this. And then we get the impersonal planets over here, which is basically Jupiter and Saturn. Let me put the squiggles in while we're at it. There's Mercury, okay? And then there's Venus, very, very hot planet. There's Earth, and then there's the moon surrounding Earth. Then there's Mars, okay? And then these are impersonal, and over here these are transpersonal. These are to do with the depths of the soul. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Okay, so all these little squiggles over here, they correspond to all of these squiggles out here. These are just short-term icon avatar symbols for the planets. But when you do the Western astrology from Earth at the center, this is more like what it would look like. And these red and green lines are indications of gravitational pull between one celestial body and another. And just like if you had to stand up and do like a magic trick and rotate 10 balls on a string around you, you probably see jugglers do that on, Coney Island beaches or fairgrounds or something. And the whole idea is to get everything beautifully synchronized and in balance. But the thing is, you can't do that all the time. So when you get a planet that is, let's say, in a difficult angle, it can put a lot of pressure and pull on some of the other planets or spheres. And so sometimes, for example, I know some of you have seen this, where we've seen astrodoodle charts where there's a ton of planets all squashed into one area, or here or here. So that would be the equivalent of you holding 10 pieces of string with a heavy ball on each end, trying to whiz them around your head, and they all got tied up in a tight cluster together. And so it puts you on a very, very disoriented pivot axis, where you have to lean very far back this way to counter the energy of the gravitation pull that way from all the other planets. Right now, a lot of planets are kind of spread out, so we're feeling the pressure more from the center here, and it's having these really powerful cross currents, which I show in red, and the benefic ones I show in green. There's more going on, of course, as you know. A lot of you know all this. Some of you are more advanced that we talk about. In here there's the asteroid belt, somewhere in here, and then we have the fixed stars, which are way out in the universe, outside of our solar system, and so on. And some people take account of that in their astrology readings and so on. But I just stick with really, really simple basics, just the basic 10, the celestial bodies. So, what's going on here? First of all, let me just say hi to everybody. By the way, Necessary Truth, thank you. I see that. I've got you. Don't worry. Ivona, hello. Crystal, you're funny. Hello, Crystal. Is it free? I wish it could be. Anyway, if you're interested, you can use Super Chat. There's a little button down below where you type, and then you swipe your debit card or something, Hello, Robin. Hello, Happy-Go-Lucky. Oh, funny. Hello, Ivona. Hello, Pretty Tulips. All right. So, hello, Olson. Good to see you. I hope those readings help. All right. So we've got. I'm not sure if I have much ability tonight to do really long, extensive readings, but I'll do my best. And if we only have one reading, that's fine. And we'll go from there. I'm not worried. I just want to share this stuff with you because I think it's really important. First of all, I just want to say hello and good evening. Hello, good evening. This is Lumination. How is everybody? If you're like me, you might be feeling like I'd rather just be hibernating right now, switch off everything and just soak in and try to absorb and understand what the is going on out there on our planet. What is going on over here on planet Earth, okay? Planet Earth is going through these massive convulsions right now. Again, I like to blame it on the planets. But if you check in with global events, you can see that it's not just you or me or a handful of people that you know who are kind of like scratching our head about what the heck is going on with humanity. It's a worldwide phenomenon, okay? The whole of planet Earth is convulsing basically exactly on time, in perfect synchronicity with the planets. It all started January 2020. That was the moment of critical mass. Remember that a year and a half ago, over a year and a half ago, when we had the Cancer Capricorn eclipses right on the conjunction with Pluto and then Saturn and Jupiter right there. To me, that was the telltale sign that the bomb is going to drop. And the bomb, as you know, is this big nefarious bug that has gone all over the world. And it's a weapon. It is a bioweapon. It's not just a random freak of nature because we don't, wash our hands after we poop or something like that. This is on a whole other level. This is a massive bioweapon that was designed for maximum destruction, capability, death, impairment, eugenics, whatever you want to call it. It was designed to create havoc, chaos, fear, death on a massive scale. I've talked about this before. I've seen reports from military information that the United States was expecting and preparing and anticipating a loss of about 100 million people in the next year and a half or so. And they've only lost whatever it is. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's basically, to me, it looks like this big, massive bioweapon that was created and dropped by this massive evil elites to propagate their agenda. What they thought was going to be like 1,000 times more powerful than any kind of nuclear bomb, like in World War II with Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They thought and believed that this bug was going to be like a super bomb. And in a way it was. It went all over the world very, very quickly as planned. And now it is everywhere and you can't switch it off. But instead of causing the, I would say, astronomical destruction that they were hoping and planning for, it was kind of like a damp firework where it just kind of went and so now it's just like this creeping invasion that's affecting the whole of planet Earth more like a fungus or black mold or a very, very, very persistent metastatic cancer that's very, very hard to diagnose and treat and deal with. So how do we function? The way I look at it from the perspective of the elites, they're scrambling, trying to figure out what are we going to do. Our massive bioweapon bomb, it kind of fizzled. So we're going to have to just keep propagating the bad news and scaring everybody. We're going to have alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, omega variations of this bug because they got to keep it rolling to propagate their very frightening agenda. So I'm going to go back to the astrodoodle right now, and partly I'm going to do this. I'm doing this to help explain the energy to myself because I've been really struggling with this energy here. I've had 4 deaths in the last 4 days in my life. 2 beloved animals from my dear friends in New Zealand, a beautiful prize chicken and a beautiful family dog died on the same day. And another dog got very badly injured, almost had to be put down. And the next day I woke up to the news that one of my cousins had just died. And that afternoon I got an email that one of my best friends when I was a child just died. And he died of metastatic cancer. He couldn't fight it anymore. He was a very good man. So I've been kind of overwhelmed with these energies of death. I'm not trying to scare people, but it has kind of left me feeling very drained and saddened, because grief can be very hard on the body. So I'm just letting it go through me, and so I'm feeling very mellow. But to go back to the whole of planet Earth, there's a couple things that I would like to point out. Can you see this Mars in Virgo, fairly close to the Sun, and it was fairly close to Mercury, opposing this Neptune in Pisces over here? To me, this is a very, very strong message that it's time to clean up our act here in humanity. So the way I see that portrayed is that the evil agenda is operating very effectively through the shadow side of Neptune energy, which is betrayal, lies, deception, manipulation, the propagation of evil presented as something loving and pure and caring. It's the energy of the hidden enemy. In other words, hey, vote for me and I will save you. But in fact, what they're doing is we all know what's happening. If you watch global news channels like I do, I just watch scraps here and there to find out what's going on across the whole world, because the United States is heavily censored in its mass media and its social media. Most Americans are not fully aware of the evil agenda that's happening across planet Earth. A lot of American media is filled up with things like rock music, pop music, concerts, events, sports, local weather, local activities, lots of, streaming video and entertainment, anything to keep your attention away from what's actually happening, which is a systematic culling of humanity by an elite bunch of elites. They're trying to get rid of billions of people, because if you do your homework and you check up on the WEF, Agenda 2030, for example, then you'll understand a little bit more what I'm talking about. Anyway, this energy here is a very strong energy. Like Virgo is very pure. It wants things to be just right. And it is in hard opposition with Neptune in Pisces, which is the energy that I've been dealing with for years here, about like the slow corrosion of what's happening with humanity through betrayal, lies, disease, infection, the propagation of evil. Because this Neptune in its highest expression is pure love. But all these planets have a shadow expression, which is, for Neptune, is the absence of love. And the absence of love appears to be anything and everything that could be very interesting or valuable or fun or exciting or desirable, where in fact it is more like a Trojan horse. The things that a lot of people love, like eating, parties, gambling, drinking, smoking, drugs, lust for money, lust for power, lust for control, lust for the sake of lust, with really grotesque, let's say perversions. All of that would be the shadow side of Piscean energy expressing itself. And it's very self-destructive. It's how we destroy ourselves. It's the hidden enemy from within us. Alcoholism, opiate addiction. And of course, America is struggling with fentanyl addictions and so on. So this energy here is a face-to-face off. It's a direct opposition. I've talked about this many times. Mars in conjunct with the sun here and a little bit of Mercury are basically saying it's time for us to clean up our act, dear planet Earth. We really have to start doing things really clearly and properly and scientifically in an orderly, let's say, responsible manner, and it takes work. Mars in Virgo, that to me, that is representing where the average human being who realizes that there's something wrong, they're starting to take violent action, violent protests, violent rallies all across the world now, basically to say no to the bug pass, the bug ID. Enough is enough is enough. Enough people across planet Earth have started to realize that we're being played. Humanity is being played by a bunch of evil, satanic elites. And we're starting to get sick of it. And so it's getting violent, okay? Mars is violently expressing itself like we have to clean up the garbage and the betrayal and the deception and lies. We are being betrayed. Dear humanity, we are being betrayed, okay? So, another thing is, how is that happening? Well, it's between person to person. Humanity versus humanity, okay? The only people who can betray humanity is other human beings. So, we have beautiful Venus in Libra. It's very comfortable in its home turf here. So, it's all about the love and love in relationships. But it's directly opposing Chiron over here. And Chiron is this collective wound about humanity, where this is a slow-moving transit right now, where humanity is being exposed to the severity of its wounds about our loss and tragedy and injustice, about having our ability to live our lives as our sovereign selves has been destroyed. And it is in the process of being destroyed. And we're realizing, like, wow, the people who are supposed to be caring for us and looking after us, the people that we elect to be our leaders or that we allow to be our leaders, are actually the perpetrators of our demise. Okay? And so that's very tragic. So one of the aspects of the elite agenda is that they're trying to turn humans against humans. Humanity against humanity. Because that creates more chaos and confusion, and it allows the elites to propagate their agenda even farther. So that's what I believe that we are seeing here, is the loving, caring aspect of humanity, of Venus and Libra, about how we want justice and fairness for all of us, is opposing the Aries Chiron wound here about it has to work for each and every single individual. It can't work for just a bunch of elites and everyone else is disposable. Because remember, those elites, they can't live or function without farming us. They are farming us just like they farm fish, they farm beef, cattle, goats, sheep, chickens, turkeys, salmon, shrimp, all of that. Human beings are being farmed just like industrial farms are farming our protein, our animal protein. Okay? So that's what's happening right now. And we are being exposed to the true depth of the wounding of our sovereign selves and how we only have ourselves to blame. We can't blame anybody else. It's human against human. Okay? So the next thing we got here is the north and the south node axis is under extreme pressure. So, it's not too hard right now, but the north node energy of Gemini is about basically simple, clear, straightforward truth, honesty in our communications. How you speak and relate and communicate to your world, and how you allow the world outside of you to communicate and relate and speak to you. And what counts is truth. And the truth comes from the deeply earned wisdom of the South Node. But the thing is, all this rich wisdom contained in the South Node of Sagittarius cannot find expression in the North Node unless we deliberately make it our business. And what's happening right now is humanity is being exposed to how much we have been betrayed, how much we have individually allowed ourselves to be betrayed, knowing that we're being betrayed. We allowed for it anyway because of convenience and ignorance. And so now we're seeing the consequence of betrayal, deception, lies, fake news, fake information, fake agendas that we as a humanity have allowed to be perpetrated upon us. And the sun is lighting that up. It's like the sun, okay, the sun is over here in Leo, right, in the early degrees, about 6. South node, about 6. North node, about 6. South node, north node axis is the Sagittarius Gemini. So this is an extreme hard square. This is a super hyper stressful alignment here. You might not see it on a lot of charts, but I see it here the way I do things, okay? So, again, the sun is shining a powerful light on humanity, basically saying, okay, humanity, all the SHIT that is happening to you right now, that we see from out here in outer space from the sun, you have brought that upon yourselves. You, dear humanity, you have become experts at lies, deception, betrayal, deceit, false communications, false, fake stuff, in order to, I guess, fool yourselves into thinking that it's a shortcut to happiness. Whereas in fact, humanity should be waking up to the realization that we don't have anyone else to blame except ourselves. And we are at this point on a global scale. And this has never, ever happened before in human history. The last time we had huge global kind of tectonic shifts was like World War I, World War II, the Great Depression, 1776, September 11th, the big bombing of World Trade Center, Vietnam Wars, the Middle Eastern Wars, the Eastern European wars that were kind of not heavily publicized. I mean, humanity has been in war. Like, it's perpetual warfare. And guess what? That's where the money is. So, I'm going to do this on camera. So, I was studying more and more things about money, the world of money, the world of finance, banking, global banking, and so on. And I saw this very old little clip interview with the mother of several of the boys who are her sons, who are at the extreme highest top level of the global banking cabal. And she was very, very blunt and very direct because she understood what was happening. She understood that her boys make their money from war. They finance both sides of the war. Whoever wins the war pays off the debts and losses of whoever loses the war. And it's just a game. Let the games begin. And then the bankers step back and they just sit there with their calculators, chalking up all their profits. And it's like the more devastation and destruction, that actually ends up as more and more dollar signs. So that's what they're trying to do now, because it's a business model. That is their business model. That's how they live. That's how they perpetuate themselves. Their primary concern is consolidating as much power, money, and control as possible here on planet Earth now, as if this was our only existence. So you have to get as much as you can, as fast as you can, right now. And that's it, by whatever means. And of course, you don't get your hands dirty. You can step back and you can plant seeds of dissension and seeds of discontent to basically instigate a war. You can basically, it's like setting fire with kindling wood, creating sparks of conflict within otherwise fairly stable populations. But by careful monitoring of the global politics, you can cherry pick populations that are very close to destabilizing because of their own internal conflicts. And what tends to happen is that like human beings who become very, very dysfunctional, they start to project that outwards and take it out on somebody or something else. Like if I was really depressed and angry because of my finances or because of the loss of those four beings that I told you, and I just couldn't process it and I just felt rage, I would take that on someone else. Typically that would be the person's closest to you. In the way that works in human dynamics is your loved ones and your friends and family. Typically those are the first ones who suffer the energy of anyone who is not responsible for their own energy management. So that happens on the individual scale and it happens on a global scale. And that's what's happening with humanity. So essentially, in a nutshell, we now have huge populations across the world looking at each other from opposite sides of a situation. The situation was fabricated deliberately to specifically create this situation of divide and rule. Because once you have a situation of divide and rule, the next step is to spark violence, initiate, trigger violence, as opposed to like a Cold War or diplomacy or deal making or fence building. No, the next step is violence, because when things go violent, that's like the green light for real war, which means big money, big money. The whole Middle Eastern wars, Afghanistan, that was a 20-year boondoggle specifically designed to make money for a bunch of, MIC, military, very, very complex entities who profit from WAR. It's a racket. It's a business. It's like cockfighting. Same thing, really. You set it up, you create the bait, you try and instigate rage and anger and separation and hatred, and then you put the angry one in a cage with the other angry one, and they don't have anywhere to go except to take out their rage and anger on each other. In other words, everything that's wrong with and unhappy and miserable with this particular fighting rooster can be blamed on this particular fighting rooster. And these fighting roosters have been born and raised with abuse and violence and hatred in order for these otherwise beautiful creatures to turn into violent killing machines. It's blood sport. So that's what's happening. That's what I see happening on Earth right now, and it is all planned out. The people who are outside of the fighting ring, whatever they call that, the cage, they've been planning this for a long time, and they're very close to setting it off. I think they were expecting a much more spectacular event in 2020, and so, but it's not happening. So they're having to drag things out and tease things out, like omega, beta, delta, alpha, whatever variation on this bug, so that they can, try to kindle this dissociation with humanity to the point where we literally turn on each other with mass violence. That would be their dream come true, is massive global warfare, literally a World War III, World War II, they called it World War II because it involved a lot of places on Earth at the time, but nothing compared to today. World War III would literally be everywhere on planet Earth where human beings are living. So that's how I look at things on that cheerful note. Yeah, so that's my interpretation of the charts for today. Let me go back here. Now remember again, this too shall pass. A lot of the stuff that I've been talking about here with all this extreme conflict, about the exposure of falsehoods, lies, deception, betrayal, that just a handful of conspiracy theorists and so on, the QAnons and all those folks, and maybe the Patriots, people are starting to realize it isn't just a joke. It isn't just a bunch of wackos. The evil that's going on is genuine. It is true. And evil is essentially the absence of love, because the Elites really do not have love in their DNA, because they are consumed by other energies like we talked about, lust for money, power, and control. Okay, so love in its broadest sense is actually a huge nuisance, a huge impediment to the pathways of achieving global power, money, and control. So they have to kind of obliterate love. So look what's happened in CHINA, where the CCP basically is, using extreme violence to subject the population to obliteration of all belief in any kind of God or religion or maker or anything sacred. As far as the CCP is concerned, the only sacred thing is the CCP, and everybody must obey and worship the CCP. And of course, that is the embodiment of evil. But they're trying to spread that agenda across the whole of planet Earth. So the hotspots, as you know right now, are over here, little China, Australia, New Zealand hotspots now, all over Western Europe, riots and protests everywhere. And now riots and protests are starting to pop out in the United States, even though the mass media is trying to suppress it or censor it. So it's still happening. Other places, there are a lot of, all of these countries here and here are all affected by this massive bug. And here, but how you react and respond to it is a whole other thing, because the real dynamics are occurring between our place over here in the United States and this place over here is CHINA. And that's where it's all going to be playing out. Because if you know about the astrology between China and America, you can see that we are set up for where we are heading right now, which is not very pretty. So the way you might feel it in local terms is that, like in the United States, there are a lot of places that are starting to notice, just like they're starting to notice in Europe and England, that there are a lot of grocery shelves that are emptying out. And we've got serious problems with water and drought and fires. And right now, Hurricane Ida is just barreling up here, causing devastation all the way up here to here, and so on and so on. And, hurricanes, that's routine. Drought, come and go. But some of these are extreme and irreversible. Everything to the west of the Mississippi is going to become more and more and more dry. Everything to the east is going to become more turbulent and more wet. All of this up here, which is traditionally extremely cold, is going to become hotter and hotter and so on. The real heat waves are going to be over in here and here. The safer zones are over here, but very few of us will ever see that in our lifetimes, because most of us here... Oh, Karen's over there. Hello, Karen. I saw you. Karen is over here. Even New Zealand, like 2,000 miles from Sydney, Australia, even New Zealand is now under extreme pressure from the Elites. Lock it down, lock it down, lock it down. Okay? We have a bug. So that's what they're doing. And so, even though New Zealand has been relatively, I would say, immune from what's happening so far, they are now, the leadership over there is now under tremendous pressure from the cabal. The cabal operates from here and from here. They're under tremendous pressure to lock things up and create more dysfunction, dissociation, and fractures between the human populations. You know, those who believe in the bug and getting the injection, and those who do not believe in the bug or getting the injection. That's the agenda. Divide and rule. It's like, you know, it's baiting the cocks for the cockfight. We're not there yet. The buildup is going to be slow. Anyway, with these 5 retrogrades, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, all of that is happening right now, which is actually an amazing opportunity for humanity to look at itself while this ugly stuff is happening and start to take greater ownership and accountability as a species. As a species that is one single species, as opposed to a species that is heavily divided into the haves and the have-nots, or the people at the top who are the elites who have all the power and money control, and then there's everyone else who's being farmed. You are being farmed. And it all happens through the global financial system. That's how you are farmed. You might not be aware of it, but that's what's happening to you. And eventually you'll figure it out. Anyway, I hope some of that made sense. I'm going to just sit here and hang out for a moment. It looks like I've only got maybe 1 or 2 readings, so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to push for readings, okay? So, I'm glad there's a few of you here tonight. This gives me a chance to rant, because I needed to get that out of me so I can be neutral. I like to be very, very neutral. Like, no matter how bad things are out there, or no matter how good things are, I like to try to maintain a very neutral posture. So I feel like I have that to some extent, and I've worked for that. So we're going to read for a necessary truth in a moment. And let me see, necessary. Yeah. One of the things, I wasn't going to do a show tonight at all, but I put it on anyway, because I was concerned in case a few of you wanted to connect, because some of you connect directly through this show. So, I think that's important. I didn't want to deprive people just because I wasn't feeling like so special. Anyway, I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. Some of the channels that I like to watch are kind of obscure, and it's where I get my most, what I would consider, trustworthy information. I like to visit the Epoch Times, and I like a fellow called Mark Moss. I like another place called NTD News. Those are a few places. I like to see Ice Age Farmer. I like to see Yanasa Ama Farmer. I like to watch Suspicious Observers now and again, because they deal with the space weather and the solar weather that has a huge impact on Earth climate, and so on and so on. I watch all sorts of things, but there's another fellow, a couple fellows I like, and they like to do these question-answer things. There's Joshua Phillip from the Epoch Times. He does a lot of live shows in the evening now where he does questions and answers. What do they call it? AMA, Ask Me Anything. So if anyone has anything like that and you want to spark a conversation, feel free, just type something in there, and I'll see if I can respond in any way that's useful to you. Meanwhile, I'm going to go get a deck and start shuffling. I'll keep an eye on the chat. All right. Now, actually, the deck's already shuffled, but I'm going to go to the last second so that we're all a witness. Where's the golden? Here we go. Hello, Robin. Oh, Robin wants a psychic message. Ka-ching! Yes, we can do that. That will give you a psychic message. Robin's Realm reading. There we go. Thanks, Robin. Oh, wait a minute. I just saw something pop in here. It came in through my email. Looks like Mr. Ross is out there, wants a little mini reading. I'll pop that in here. So that's probably all I'll be able to handle tonight. We'll see. I know I'm sounding a bit wimpy, but that's how it goes sometimes. Alright, first up, necessary truth. I hope I didn't scare anybody with my ranting for the last half hour. I don't know if anybody remembers, but I used to have this active thing on the Patreon place where people would become memberships and I would get money, regular support from viewers, and I had quite a few members that way, and I was not able to be justified to keep it going because, you know, there was so little support from the algorithm to run the channel at all, so I kind of had to like stop all that. But one of the things that we used to do was every week or perhaps once a month we would have like a private Zoom meeting where the members who are already paying good money, the members would come to the Terra Lumination private Zoom room, and we would do things like these what I consider very, let's say, customized self-healing methods that I've used over the years very, very effectively. But all of that stuff has gone away now because my whole life is literally just about taking care of things in the moment. And then I realized for whatever reason, it all came to, it all kind of, I would say, dissolved. I can guarantee you that if I did the astrology on myself, I would find that there's a very strong Neptune influence that undermined the channel. No particular fault of my own, but I have a very clear idea. What's that? Hi, Nikki. Robin's on a psychic message. Hi, Nikki, but I keep sending 555 to you. What are you trying to say, Robin? I don't quite understand. So anyway, we're going to read for Necessary Truth in a moment. Dear Necessary, if you're out there and you're observing, or if you're just hanging out with your feet up and munching potato chips or something, or just relaxing, then fine, I can just go completely blind if you want. But if you have a particular message, sometimes I know you like to hear messages from who's it, Chris or John, a couple of your spirit guides. Otherwise I'll just go completely blind. And it actually goes for everyone here. If you have a particular message, like a theme that you would like to approach, then we can do that. Just like one word. What kind of messages do you have for me, Terra Lumination, tonight regarding the subject of ... Okay? Oh, Robin, you keep sending the 555 to Patreon. Well, I think the Patreon's shut down, and I basically put it to sleep. So if you're sending money there, it's probably not being accepted. But I will check just in case. I'm pretty sure I stopped all that. Calling in John. Okay, we're going to messages from John. All right. Alrighty. Okay. Cheers. Thank you, Necessary. I'm just going to shuffle a tiny bit more so I feel really tuned in. Well, let's have a look. All right, what kind of messages do we have here tonight for Necessary as filtered through her spirit guide, John? Let's have a look. Here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle it. Same old spread. You know, this show is kind of like Wheel of Fortune. It's just the same old thing over and over again. The wheel spins and you stop it when this happens. This is the same thing. I just used my Tarot Lumination mini diagnostic spread, and it works. All right, so I'm over here. We're going to look at environmental energy influences, external, let's say, energy fields, which of course I always default to the planets, and then we'll see how that goes. So let's start. Here we go. So we've got the Five of Swords here. Well, to me this looks like it's very appropriate for right now in terms of communications, okay? Okay, this is an axis of communication here. The South Node and the North Node. The South Node is Sagittarius. It's like having a huge piggy bank full of wisdom and knowledge and experience, all obtained from years of adventure and seeking the truth and the light and higher consciousness and higher awareness. But what use is that if you're just sitting on top of a mountain looking at the rest of Earth? The point is to gather that wisdom and bring it down here to Earth in a way that can be translated and communicated to the masses of humanity in a way that's understandable. That's the tricky part. How do you take vast concepts, things like wisdom, knowledge, understanding how the world works? How do you translate that into the minute details of day-to-day life so whoever's listening can understand it? It's very, very tricky. And it would be much easier to take a shortcut and just make up lies. And so that's being called out right now. So my feeling is that this axis of communication, let's say it's not personal, but this is very strong for everybody right now. So my feeling is that this T-square here, remember this is a T-square, okay? It looks like this. This is why they call it a T-square. I'll just illustrate it like this. That's why they call it a T-square, okay? So, when I see that for you, to me it feels like it's very, very, very important to be aware that you are in a very delicate situation regarding your communications with others or a specific other, and other people or specific other people communicating to you, where it would be so easy and so natural to get caught up in like a tit-for-tat situation. Well, like you could be like, well, you lied to me. Well, the only reason I lied to you is because you lied to me. So you get into these lose-lose conversations, lose-lose interchanges, lose-lose dynamics where it's not about honesty, love, or truth, or justice, or compassion, or caring about what actually happens in the context of loving relationship. With the Five of Swords here, what I'm sensing is that it's really important. It's like what John wants to be aware is that you, dear necessary, you are subject to these intense pressures just like everyone else. So if you are in an environment where you feel as though you're under pressure to try and prove a point to the point where it's pointless, like why would you even bother to prove a point where nobody actually cares whether you're right or wrong? Does that make sense? And vice versa. Why would you allow yourself to get engaged in a situation where you're being perpetually, let's say, pressured to accept a certain viewpoint, a certain truth system of laws and facts and information about life and love and reality in the world and everything that is not true for you, and yet you are under the receiving end of pressure, external pressure. It's like you get to this point like, do you want to be happy or do you want to be right? And when you want to be right, you're talking about subjective truth. What's the point about being right from your own perspective of subjective truth if it happens to be out of alignment with universal truth? Because then you're just trying to prove something that is eventually going to backfire. And vice versa. If someone or a group or family or employers or anything are coming at you with some kind of pressure to comply or go along with their version of life, their subjective truth, purely for the sake of it, because they are determined that they are the one that's in the right, you're basically setting up conflict. Okay? So, I'm not saying, let's not get too personal here. What John is like, give me a little tap here. Okay, let's not get too personal here. What he wants you to know is that you are very vulnerable to this energy right now. It's the energy of getting sucked into tit for tat, conflict, argument, trying to represent your sovereign self in a way that is true and honest, where you're actually in an environment where there's a lot of, let's say, external negative pressure to, let's say, accommodate I got stuff in my eyes, hold on, to accommodate subjective truth, like for example, an employer or a partner or a mate or a family member who is absolutely convinced of their own righteousness in a situation, and yet you know in your heart of heart that's actually not true, not only from a subjective level but from a universal level. So that makes it very difficult. So just be aware. It's not the end of the world. It just means like you have to be extremely aware that you're kind of having to navigate through a time period right now where, let's say you take the bait and you try to protect and defend yourself against, let's say, falsehoods or lies or whatever it is, or communications that you know deep down are not good or not true according to universal law. It's still no point in getting stuck into it because you can't fight. Like, people believe what they believe. And if somebody believes that their subjective truth is actually universal truth when it's not, there's nothing you can do about that. And you just end up being a victim sucked up into someone else's vortex. And that doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help you. Hey, Jeffrey, I see you. All right, so this is just kind of, to me, it looks like a warning sign. Let's have a look. What's the situation? situation is that you really need a break, okay, necessary truth? Again, swords information here. The Four of Swords is indicating that it is time for self-healing. Time to prioritize the self. And that could indicate, I don't know if some people don't see this, but I see it very easily. There is a loving couple in the stained glass window here. And there is this separation, okay? Because sometimes relationships provide the most vivid, powerful, accurate mirror that we need in our own lives to discover our own growth in our life path. But sometimes you can get sucked into it to the point where it's like people just get so entangled with each other, like self and other and self, okay? Where all you're doing is just like you're constantly aggravating each other's wounds. And that doesn't help anybody. Hello, Bethany. Good evening. So, to me, this looks like a very strong message. Right now, it would be very, let's say, helpful. Let's put this towards the Virgo new moon, because we're heading there soon, okay? The moon is already here in Gemini, okay? 2, 4, 6. In about a week or so, the moon is going to be over here conjoined with the sun, new moon in Virgo. And I feel that this new moon in Virgo is going to be very, very much to do with all of us, not just you necessarily, but all of us. We need to clean up our act. Make it our business to clean up our act. I'm going to make it my business to clean up my act. Find out what needs healing and repairing. Find out what cannot be repaired and find a way to discard or bless its exit from my life. And actively find improved ways of behaving, communicate, living, so that you can clean as you go. Okay? That's what I'm sensing here. So, that's, everybody has their little quirky things that you could put on a bumper sticker. One of mine is that I like the thing of clean as you go. Like with relationships or business or, cooking or working in kitchens, working with friends and family or working in the workplace. I always like to clean as I go. If I get to a point where I can't clean as I go, I try to make things that whatever mess I can't clean up as I go right now, I stack it in such a way that I can come back to it later without being overwhelmed. And that is a methodology. But for right now, the message here is to give yourself a break today from any situation, person, dynamics, relationship where you've reached a kind of impasse, where there is no more progress that is possible. It's not the end of the world. It's just that sometimes you have to know when to disconnect. You basically say, you know what, I'm sorry, whoever you are, like my employer, my so-and-so person, mom, lover, whatever, pet, whatever it is. I've reached a point where I just need to disconnect. I need to take care of myself. I need to center. I need to heal. I need deep self-healing right now. And that is my own business, because I can't be any use to you or anyone else unless I am healed. So this is my little song, I am healing, I am healed. I should probably play that. What's the problem here? Okay, this is going to sound really strange. Okay, necessary. To me, it feels like you got a situation where you are being heavily pressured to perform and behave in a very, let's say, loving way by demand. Which is, from my perspective, it doesn't seem fair. But it's also understandable. Like, we all need to improve our game, to upgrade our energy management, to get to the point where we are masters of our emotions, our feelings, our currents of energy. And attaining mastery in energy management, okay? So necessary, it might sound like I'm going way out on a tangent here, but to me, the topic of energy management is a big deal in my world. It sounds kind of neutral and mechanical, but it actually goes to the depths of the soul. I just saw your chat thing. My bumper sticker is, never drive faster than your angels can fly. Whoa, that is serious. So it feels to me that part of you is under your own pressure to operate at very high frequencies and to keep maintaining yourself as a very loving person. On the other hand, maintaining and achieving those levels of mastery can be more challenging than we ever imagine. And sometimes we become exposed to those challenges in very simple, unexpected ways, like through relationships of all kinds. Co-workers, employers, employees, partners, spouses, pets, close family members. And then, so it's like, number one, it's almost like John is hinting, like, dear necessary, you do put a lot of pressure on yourself to comply with these highest levels of integrity in order to be the person that you are, the loving person. Because typically, like anyone here, a lot of the people here are readers. Like Robin is a reader, Gregory reads as well, Necessary reads, I'm a reader too, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple more watching who might be readers too. But the point is that if you're already operating at that level where you have things like experience with remote viewing or astral travel or remote healing or psychic mediumship, and that's just your default setting, then the reality is that there's a high degree of responsibilities that go with it. And operating at those very high levels of mastery can sometimes be very demanding. Like it would be so much easier to if you could just unplug your integrity meter and just operate at very, corrupted levels of human behavior, because it's just so much easier. When you feel uncomfortable with someone, you just yell at them and say, shut up. Or like, if somebody needs help and they ask you and you say, nah, screw you, I got to do something else. So on and so on. So you're kind of, to me it feels like you're stuck in this awkward place where you have high standards that you place upon yourself, and inadvertently, because you have created this world, now these extremely high standards are expected of you from others. So that's a lot of pressure. But you're a human being like the rest of us, and you have your break points. And I think you're at one of these break points right now where in order to keep the peace and to heal and to move on, you have to know when to pull the fuse out or switch things off or just pull the plug so that you can kind of disconnect from, it's like deliberately disconnect from all of the energies here and just give yourself a break. Take a nap, lie down, watch a movie, anything to disconnect, okay? And then let yourself go into a dreamy, hazy sleep for a while and heal from within before you get back into the outer world. How are we going to deal with this? Because this looks like a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure that you place on yourself, and a lot of pressure coming to you externally. To me, it feels like you might be under pressure to be loving according to a certain spiritual code of what it means to be loving, according to somebody or something out there. In other words, like being forced to comply with subjective love, subjective truth, as opposed to universal love, universal truth. So that's, again, we're dealing with the Piscean energy here, okay? Sorry, this one, this axis here. And so it means you are just as responsible for cleaning up and healing the things that are not working in your world, just as others in your world. It might be a great idea if they started to mind their own business and take care of their own stuff instead of doing any projecting. For example, if the situation is where you know very, very well that you need to disconnect, you need to take a break, you need to do your own self-healing, you need a bit of privacy, you need a bit of downtime. When you do that lovingly and carefully, without any offense, then whoever or whatever is putting so much pressure on you has no option except to walk away because they can't reach you. Okay? Like, in other words, you've shut the door on the situation for the time being. But it's hard to do because they're under a lot of pressure to not heal the self. You're under pressure to stay in a situation of extended futile conflict. So how are we going to deal with this? Okay, so with the Ten of Cups, my feeling is this is very, very personal, very, very private. To me, it feels like it's like for you. Okay, I'm going to try and get this clarity from John. Okay, necessary. It's like, okay, he's saying like you got it already, TL. Don't worry about it. You already. I know what you were going to say. I get it already. It's like the way to move forward is consolidate yourself through an episode of deliberate self-healing, which likely means having to close the door to anyone and everything that is not essential for your daily survival for the next day or so, the next few hours, or perhaps every day. Just shut everything off for an hour, or watch a movie for an hour, or something like that, so that you can have a chance to heal. And when you go into that private place of self-healing, you deliberately seek out, like the attitude of gratitude. You deliberately, it's like make a list of the 10 amazing things that you have in your life for which you are truly grateful, and understand that you really, truly are blessed. Because as you probably know, from the way I rant about planet Earth, there's probably about 2 billion people here who have nothing but scraps, dirt, barefoot, running around in sewage, garbage dumps, landfills, subsistence farming, squalor, cholera, diphtheria, meningitis, malaria, just to survive and get through a single day. So that's just one obvious example. Over in North America, we only have about 330 million people, and a lot of us have things like running water, cold and hot, transportation, shelter in abundance that not everywhere else in the world has to the way that we do. So to me it feels like it's time for self-healing and making very clear, and you might even have to literally force the door to shut so that you can claim some privacy and go back to recalibrating yourself, reminding yourself that your happiness, your sovereign self, your own happiness is the ultimate thing, and we need to take stock of that again. I'm grateful for my shelter. I'm grateful for my intelligence. I'm grateful for my compassion, my psychic mediumship, my running water, my health, my body, my friends, my family, the people who love me and the people that I love. All of that. And systematically, deliberately, consciously go through it like a list of 10 things for which you are deeply grateful, that would constitute almost like an idealized, loving world. Okay? But that comes from within. Okay, the retrogrades are very big, very powerful right now. So there are definite pathways to go deep within. Go deep, deep, deep within and understand how how truly blessed you are, and recalibrate that before you go back to day-to-day life and allow yourself to be bombarded by external influences, okay? All this stuff that's going on here, these are very stressful dynamics, okay? So if you have to, close up, insulate, self-insulate, meditate, take a break, separate yourself from irreconcilable conversations or interactions, no matter how much pressure there is, and then go back to a total self-recalibration. Reclaim your sovereign self about what constitutes happiness for you, which would basically you loving you, okay? It's time for you to be your own best friend, okay? That is it in an essence here. It's time for you to be your own most loving, caring, compassionate partner to yourself, okay? I hope that helps, necessary. That's your reading. Thank you very much. In case anybody is not aware, Necessary actually sent her donation through the PayPal and the website for tarotlumination.com. So, as far as I know, yeah. And she notified me through the chat. Now, Robin, who was the other one? Was it Robin? Robin just donated through the super chat, so that's another way to do it. Next up is Robin. Jeffrey says, I'm not a reader. That's okay. You don't have to be a reader to be on this show. Alright. I'm just going to tidy this up. I'm going to play that little song, I Am Healing. I know I haven't played it for a very long time. Let me see if I can still find it. Hold on. Where is it? Come on. Come on, little computer. Come on. There it is. I got it. Here we go. go. I'm glad you like that, Karen. I still have a lot of songs that I've written that I haven't been able to produce. But that little song, I Am Healing, I Am Healed, is something that I wrote a few years ago. I actually wrote that a few years ago as part of my own healing regimen, because I was coming out of some really bad cancer,